Hey guys, how's it going? It's Kara here with another Exos Heroes video. And in today's video, I want to talk about Awakening. So it's the new progression system for really enhancing your character stats in this game. I wanted to give it a few days before I actually made a video on this. But in this video, I want to talk about exactly what kind of progression system this is, which of the 6 sets are actually good to choose for Awakening, which characters I'm going to be choosing for Awakening, and then lastly, which characters I'm trying to avoid Awakening until later when we get more gear or more information on where this is going. Really quick, I want to talk about the last video about how Exos Heroes is dying. I really wanted to give you guys a shout out. I really liked how positive and how constructive everyone was. It wasn't really toxic. A lot of these, I really don't like to do those type of videos just because it harbors a lot of negativity. And I feel like there was some of that there, but for the most part, I thought it was a very good discussion and it kept it healthy and it kept it, moving. So I just want to give you guys a shout out. I really like that. I really like that it's not just this. I see this a lot in these mobile games where it's just every bad change is just the end of the world. Like, I'm going to quit. This game sucks, stuff like that. And it's just really, it's such a bummer to play the game because I do legitimately enjoy this game. It's just, I still wanted to voice my opinions on it while still being constructive. So to have the community also kind of feel the same way was really cool. With that out of the way, let's get into the video. So the first thing I want to do is I want to talk about what are the good Awakening sets. A lot of these you'll see I chose red. Let's go to a character that's not awakened yet. And I want to talk about which sets I think are good and then also the type of characters that I'm going to be trying to awaken. You'll notice a theme in the characters I chose. If you saw the 4 characters I chose, there's definitely a theme of what I think is a good character to awaken and what a character I'm going to hold off on. So for example, first thing is going to be the 6 sets here. This requires 5 pieces of gear. Like, the weapon is not involved. It's 5 pieces of gear and they all need to be the right type. And your Guardian Stone also needs to be the right type for that 6th piece. And then you'll get stats based on which, type of set you do. As it seems very, before I want to talk about this, I want to do it multiple times and also try the characters out just to see exactly some of the unanswered questions. So a couple of the unanswered questions I felt were, when you're upgrade, it kind of looks like you're upgrading here. I was wondering if you still keep these, effects here, like the total damage reduction. You don't. You don't keep any of that. You don't keep any of the gear. You don't keep any of the Guardian Stones. They're all gone. You just have one. You're back to 1 stone. Then you get these effects though, and then you also just by default get a massive stat boost. The base stat boost you get is 1600 HP, 1000 defense, 1500 attack, a ton of combat power, and then awaken level 1. And then no dodge, none of that, unless you're choosing a specific type. The ones those are going to be the base things. And then these additional effects are on top of those standard effects you'll get regardless. For example, you're always going to get that 1600 health. In this case, 2000 on top of that 1600, and then 12 dodge rate on top of just the other stats you gain there. And then if you had fire, you'd get 5000 on top of that 1600. If you had, blue, you're going to get 700 defense on top of the 1000 you're gaining, stuff like that. The only set bonuses that matter are going to be the top ones, like the full sets. I haven't seen any mix and match ones. It's usually just objectively worse to do that. So definitely avoid doing that. There's no like gain where you get like more health, but you're going to get less hit or something like that. It's just all objectively worse from what I've seen. Out of the full sets that are good, I would say the ones that I've considered the most, fire being the top one. I've done a blue. And then I've done machine, and then the type of characters that I want for each one. And then I've considered nature. I haven't done nature, but I've considered it. I think that was okay. All the characters I look to awaken are characters that have some kind of passive or some kind of stat requirement that requires them to have like a ton of health or have the most health or have the most defense or have the most attack, stuff like that. And then they're a passive that benefits from them being that character that has the most attack, something of that nature. And I want to talk about the characters that I think are good in each type. So a lot of tanks, specifically like the protection tanks like Garf or Chadi, I really like HP on. And then also Garf too, because he has the passive where he needs to have the most health. So, obviously giving him the one with the most HP gain is pretty much a no-brainer for him specifically. But for most people, if you look at these stats just in general, the raw HP gain you gain from a red set almost just beats out every other stat gain you get here. The only exception to that, in my opinion, is probably the machine set, because I've noticed a lot of mages miss a ton. And then if you look at the hit of a mage versus the hit of most melee characters, they the hit is about, like 12, 10 less on the mage. So having that 12 extra definitely is something that I've considered and done on my Bathory, to make sure she misses significantly less. And 3000 HP is still pretty good compared to the 5000. Yes, it's still a pretty big disparity there. I'm trying it. I think the hit is going to be worth it in the long run, but it was kind of, I still debated. I was like, yes, they do miss a lot, but 2000 health extra is still pretty good. So I debated on it, but I'm going to go with, on my mages in particular, I'm going to go machine. Frost set, I think, is pretty much straight garbage, but Shufraken, his passive is required to have him with the most defense. It's all characters that are below his defense. So I went with the 6 Frost set on Shufraken, and I believe that's going to be literally the only character I'll ever go Frost set on. And then nature, I'm still up in, I don't know, because all the characters that have high dodge, I mean, we don't know exactly how many points of we don't know exactly how much a point of dodge actually affects a character's dodge rate. Is it a linear stat that the reason why we're seeing like people like Rara dodge so much is because they just have a ton of dodge, and then the 12 is just a little bit more of a ton? Are we getting diminishing returns after a certain point, and so these 12 points are completely useless? Is it actually weirdly like the inverse, where the more dodge you have, the way better chance you have, and each point after a certain point goes even higher? So maybe that's why they dodge so much. We have no idea. There's no way to, I don't know how to test that. If people know like objectively what each point of dodge does, then I could actually recommend that stuff, but I can't. And I have no like frame of reference except characters that have a ton of dodge, and they, I notice them dodge significantly more, and then people just have significantly way less dodge, and they dodge, obviously significantly less. So I don't know. I've also noticed that defense is just not a really good stat when it comes to characters' survivability. Like I've had, Degos's with my Degas, I think, has like 2900 defense versus other characters that have significantly less defense, and he still gets one shot all the same by Rara. So I've just really never noticed a difference in defense. I've noticed a major difference in like, block chance, so if you have a ton of block, then you'll actually block, and then block is something that actually reduces your damage by a very significant amount, but that's still RNG, and we still don't know, just like dodge rate, how much block chance rate actually impacts stuff. And then it's not even part of the awaken set anyway. So that's why I've just completely dodged defense compared to the HP boosts of like machine sets and fire sets. And then with the nature set being, kind of there, but I have no idea. I don't know if, this dodge rate is actually going to impact anything. So I'm just going to go with the things that I know are true, which are a full fire set or a machine set, because I actually have a frame of reference when it comes to hit rating versus the dodge rate. Okay, so that's my logic on like the things I chose. I would probably stay far, far away from ever awakening characters with a light set or with the darkness set. I wouldn't even mess with any of that. The only ones I would ever consider are going to be mainly fire, nature, machine, with the one exception being Shufraken for frost. I think there's actually objectively better and versions of those. Then you got to factor in the character, which I like pretty much every general in the game besides Rachel, I think is worth awakening, because you're getting a massive attack boost. Just the raw stats alone are massive. So these characters benefit from having the most. So for example, Dorka here has the passive of grants allies with less attack than self with the Soulbond mark. So that's, obviously you want to have the most there. And then for example, Bathory, obviously characters with less attack gets tranquil. So I want her with the absolute most. And then you also want to factor in a lot of these characters have, each type of character has their own kind of set range of what their stats are going to be. So for example, these mana utilization characters in Bathory have just a massive amount of attack. So when you actually not only do that, but awaken them, it's going to almost guarantee that they're already going to be the highest attack character, but then you awaken them over characters that are unawakened, you're going to exceed their attack by a ton, because Bathory is always going to just have more attack than a Rara. But a lot of people like to, enhance their rares with moves and then also really invest in their weapons. So you're kind of pushing that. It's like a really close line, but then all you got to do is just awaken Bathory, and then it's just never going to be close again, because you get 3,800 attack here. And then all this extra stuff I have here, I have a way better weapon. I have way more moves on Rara, and it doesn't even come close. Another example of that would be Dorka here. Dorka is good to awaken because Dorka and Rara share a very similar. The base stats are going to be very similar. So if I didn't have her awakened, then Rara is always going to have higher attack than Dorka. So then that's why I like to have her awakened. That's why I like to have her Fakor shared. But I don't like to have Rara awakened because I like the Guardian Stones, but mainly I like the attack speed I'm gaining from her gear. That's going to be the main thing. Her going first is a really big deal. And then having all this gear here is going to allow me to not only have the base attack speed from the weapons, but then if I actually get lucky and hit the embodiment of avarice, those tokens, I could get a whole bunch of attack speed on her and then hopefully make her go first over characters that, that don't have that or have rolled worse than me. Another thing, I haven't fused her. Fusing is another way that you can increase her attack speed, but for multiple reasons, having more attack speed on Rara is better. Like for example, if you're if you both have Annie and you go first, you're going to keep that immunity. Whereas when you attack someone with Rara, you'll have that effect, but it'll drop off on you. So even going first in the mirror match is really important for not only Rara just to get the kill off first potentially, but to also not get retaliated. Like there's just a whole bunch of reasons why you'd want to go first with her. That's why I'm definitely not going to be awakening Rara until they actually have the top row at least for her gear. Okay, so now I want to talk. Now that I've kind of explained my thought process on awakening, I want to talk what I originally thought. I thought not having a Guardian Stone and losing all the attack speed, I really didn't think it was going to be that good. I thought it was going to be something you would want to avoid. Let's hold off a bit. Let's wait for more gear to come out. It would only be good on certain characters. Like let's say you don't want to take them in PvP. Maybe it'll be PvE only. That was my initial thought process because of the Guardian Stone thing, because you're losing attack speed, you're losing critical rate, you're losing crit damage, you're losing a lot of stats. But I didn't factor in just how big the stat boosts were and just the raw stats you gain for these characters. If you're looking at them like 1,200 health, this was up from like 6,000. She only has 6,200 health with 15 moves before the 6 set boost of the gear. She's getting already 12k health now, significantly more defense as well. Point is the raw stat you gain from this is surprisingly high, and it also improves your damage. Yes, you're not critting as much. Yes, you're not doing as much crit damage, but you are hitting noticeably harder, just in general, which I think makes it worth it. Even in PvP, even if you only have one Guardian Stone, it's still good, especially on characters like Bathory. If you ever play with this meta, Bathory doesn't really do much. She's just kind of like there just for her tranquil. Yes, if she's still alive after a couple rounds, then she'll be able to do her AoE and it'll actually hit, but that's very rare. That doesn't happen every match. So just having her with high stats to make sure she's above everyone and keeping that tranquil proc is good. Also, just having more defense and more health prevents her from getting potentially one shot by Raras. Even if they crit, even with this stat, I've still noticed that she just gets one shot, but it has been a little less, and it does take significantly more gear to ever pull that off. And then in PvE content, you get massive gains for all this. I think that's where a lot of this shines. When I didn't have anyone transcended, I like to go into PvP and just try against like all the top like rank 1, rank 2 people, and I noticed that they all had like a lot of characters awakened, and I was just not. I used to. The expectation was you go in with Rara, you AoE, and then you could probably get someone either pretty low or into like Shifraken range, and then it procs the Shifraken passive and kills them. Whereas when I didn't have anyone awaken, I just didn't do enough damage. Like the raw stats they're gaining from this were making them so much more survivable that it was just not possible to do that. And then you add on, so then what that means is now that these characters are surviving more, even against rares that are, pretty geared, I think I have a pretty high one, but if you compare me to a lot of other people's rares, I'm not even as close to how strong they can be. But I think I've noticed massive, the meta has changed significantly. And I think it's opened up a lot of meta diversity, especially in PvP. and it's made a lot of PvE content significantly more fun. I don't know if it's just purely the awakening stat, or if it's me pulling Dorka, and then Dorka makes that content significantly more enjoyable because I'm not having to worry about heals nearly as much. But I am noticing that it's starting to make sense. I really don't like how they implemented this progression system. I think it's all pretty incomplete. They should have just made it one full system, and then every season it's all out there instead of kind of piecemealing it. And then not only that, but then they release the content well before, so we're struggling against the content. Then they release half of the upgrade path that they were intending, and then they're going to release the other half of the upgrade path later. I don't like that system at all. But I'm starting to kind of get an idea of what they're going for, and I've been enjoying it. PvP has been significantly more enjoyable. I've been able to try, yes, I have like all the meta characters, but I've tried significantly more combinations of characters now than I used to be able to. Like I've had legitimate success in Master 3 with, trying Dorka, taking out Bathory. I've had a lot of wins there. I've been adding, taking out Bathory, have Dorka, Shufraken. Rara is kind of stuck. She's always in there. I've also had before all this change, I've had success winning matches with Annie. You need to have Annie, but then you can replace Rara with FC Diva. Like that's another thing you can do. I've tried Ramjao with Shufraken. He's really good, especially this version of the Fake Core, not the Dragon Blood Fake Core, but the other one with the silence. That one's really cool to try out. He would be a character that would really benefit from being awakened, but I'm not ready to pull the trigger on that. Lepin, before I pulled Shufraken, I used a ton of Lepin. She's really good. So there's just so much more meta diversity. Yes, they're all like Fake Core characters, all hard to come by characters. And then there's the core squad of, you're going to need Iris. You're probably going to need Rara. But the meta is actually pretty fun. And I want to say it's partly due to just understanding how the meta works and trying other characters, but mainly this awakening mechanic is allowing the game. Characters are more survivable, so it's not literally just get one shot by Rara and then Shufraken cleans up. There's a lot more play to the game in it, which makes it a little bit more fun. I don't think it's it's not where I want it to be, but at least there's some kind of meta diversity. Whereas before it was literally just Annie, Rara, Bathory, Iris, Shufraken, and it was just mirror match city who has the most gear, and then even still, luckily. The AI doesn't really do the most optimal thing. So on offense, you do have an advantage, but still it was not fun at all to play. It was just kind of like a mindless grind. Whereas now, I think with all these changes, the meta's kind of opened up a little bit. Maybe once people figure it out, they'll be like, oh, okay, here's the new 5 characters that are just as oppressive. But as it stands now for me, I'm getting to try a lot more stuff out, and it seems a lot more fun. I just want to give you guys my thoughts on awakening characters. Now that I've actually done it, I wanted to wait a bit because I didn't really want to spread just bad advice on my initial thoughts, because my initial thoughts on this were significantly different than after trying it, playing through content, seeing how it actually works out. I think this is a better system than I initially gave it credit for. Still incomplete, still not the kind of upgrade path I'm happy with. Definitely better than what I was initially thinking. Let me know down in the comments below exactly which characters you guys are upgrading, especially if you don't have like the meta characters. Maybe you're having more success. Maybe it's a lot harder for you. I don't know. I would really appreciate that information down below. And with that, you guys have a good one. Peace.